What do you do when your life is finally comfortable, yet comfort becomes a cage? Esther lives behind palace walls where everything is polished and controlled, and then a message slips in that makes the whole place feel unsafe. Because the danger isn't inside the palace. Yet, Esther is queen, but even a queen has boundaries. Doors she can't open, rooms she can't enter unless she's called. Outside these walls, her people are under a death decree, and inside, the palace keeps breathing like nothing happened. But the calm is about to be confronted. The crisis reaches Esther indirectly, through servants, through careful words, through the safe channels of court life. Mordecai, outside the royal bubble, refuses to accept that silence equals safety. He presses the question Esther can't unhear. Will you stay hidden or step into it? Esther's first response isn't dramatic, it's realistic. She sends back the hard fact. Persian law forbids anyone from entering the king's inner court uninvited. The penalty is death, unless mercy is shown. And she hasn't been summoned in 30 days, meaning even her place feels uncertain. That's the conflict in one breath, calling versus safety. Esther can remain quiet and appear secure, or she can speak and risk everything. And Mordecai's reply doesn't comfort her. It corners her with purpose. He warns that hiding won't ultimately save her, and then he drops the line that feels like destiny knocking. Who knows, Mordecai says, whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this. Not a guarantee, not a hype speech, a responsibility. And you can almost feel Esther weighing it, because if she steps forward, there's no undo button. But what she does next changes the shape of the risk. Esther doesn't start by storming the throne room. She starts by gathering strength where strength actually begins, among her people. She sends a message, call a fast in Susa for 3 days. No food, no drink. And she and her maids will fast too. Courage, before it's public, becomes communal. This is where fear can live without taking over. The text doesn't describe panic, but it doesn't need to. Death is the stated consequence, and 30 days of silence from the king doesn't calm anyone's nerves. Esther lets the weight sit on her, and then she speaks the decision out loud. She will go. Her words are not brave because they're loud. They're brave because they're honest. I will go in unto the king, she says, and if I perish, I perish. It's acceptance of a hard assignment, with no promise of personal survival. And once those words land, the waiting becomes a countdown. 3 days of fasting isn't empty time. It's preparation under pressure. The palace still smells like bread and wine, but Esther refuses the comfort. Her maids refuse it with her. Somewhere outside, Mordecai and the community are doing the same. And when the 3rd day arrives, the story turns from inward resolve to visible risk. On the 3rd day, Esther puts on her royal apparel, not as costume, but as calling. Deep blue linen, the red sash, gold catching the light like a warning. She isn't hiding what she is. She's stepping forward as herself, in the only language the court understands. And the next step is across a line the law forbids. The inner court isn't just a place, it's exposure. Esther stands where she can be seen, directly opposite the king's house. No messenger, no invitation, just her presence, framed by towering stone and watching guards. And now everything depends on a single moment. Will the king treat her approach as treason or as petition? Inside, King Ahasuerus sits on his throne, authority made visible, crown, ring, and that golden scepter that functions like a verdict. He looks up and sees her. The room holds its breath, because in this world mercy doesn't always arrive with words. Sometimes it arrives as a gesture, or it doesn't arrive at all. Then, favor. The king extends the golden scepter. Not a speech, not a negotiation, just a bridge of gold across a deadly rule. Esther approaches and touches the top of it, the smallest movement with the biggest meaning. She is allowed to live, and she is allowed to speak. But what she says next is unexpected. The king offers generosity in royal language. What is your request? It shall be given. even to the half of the kingdom. This is the opening Esther needed. But she doesn't blurt out the crisis. She doesn't rush. She chooses restraint, and that restraint is its own kind of courage. Because delaying can be dangerous too. Esther speaks with measured clarity. She invites the king and Haman to a banquet she has prepared. Haman, the very man tied to the threat, is suddenly pulled close to the center of her plan. It's a move that looks like hospitality, but it's also positioning. And the question becomes, why bring the danger into the room? At the banquet, the atmosphere softens, music implied, lamps flickering, the court's sharp edges dulled by food and ritual. And again the king asks for her petition. Again the door is open. Esther is standing in the danger zone with her enemy nearby, and still she waits. Because timing is part of obedience. Instead of revealing everything, Esther invites them to a second banquet the next day. 2 invitations, 2 delays. Not because she's indecisive, but because she's deliberate. This isn't fear pretending to be strategy, though fear could be present. This is courage, refusing to waste its moment. And the story is quietly tightening. If this story is hitting you, if you've ever felt stuck between calling and safety, take a second to like the video and subscribe. We're building a series about decisions like this. Not flashy, not easy, but faithful. Because Esther's next move isn't louder, it's sharper. Notice what Esther has already done. She turned private dread into shared fasting, then turned shared preparation into a public step. That's why her courage doesn't read like a solo performance. It creates movement in others, Mordecai, the community, even her maids. But now she has to keep standing where she could still fall. The palace itself becomes a character, doors that only open for the summoned, curtains that conceal power, guards who don't need to threaten because the law threatens for them. Esther learned to survive in this system. Now she's using the system to serve someone else. And that's where the risk becomes more than personal. Because approaching the king once was dangerous. Approaching him and then delaying? That's staying exposed longer than necessary, unless the delay is the point. Esther is not just trying to survive. She's trying to win a hearing in a world where truth can be punished. And the banquet is her way of shaping the room before she speaks. Think about the restraint required to hold your request back when you finally have permission to ask. Esther's courage isn't only the step into the inner court, it's the discipline afterward. She's patient on purpose. And in stories like this, patience isn't passive. It's a blade kept sheathed until the right second. Mordecai's words still hang in the air. Who knows? That uncertainty is part of the tension. Deliverance will come, he believes. But Esther's responsibility is still real. She can't control outcomes. She can only control obedience. And now her obedience has carried her into a room where one wrong moment could collapse everything. So why invite Haman at all? Because Esther is doing more than requesting help. She's setting a stage where the truth can't be dismissed as rumor. She's bringing the key players into the same light, under the king's attention, at a table where words carry weight. And the closer Haman gets to honor, the closer he gets to exposure. This is the quiet genius of Esther 5. She risks her life to get one sentence of access, and then she spends that access carefully. It's not hesitation, it's stewardship. The court runs on timing, honor, and controlled entrances, and Esther is working inside that reality without being owned by it. But tomorrow's banquet will demand more than poise. And here's what makes her courage contagious. It doesn't just inspire admiration, it mobilizes people. The Jews in Susa fast. Mordecai aligns with her instruction. Her maids join her discipline. One woman's decision to accept a hard assignment becomes a community's decision to stand together. But unity doesn't remove the danger, it concentrates it. Esther's story doesn't teach that faith is never afraid. It shows something subtler. Fear can be present, plausible, human, and still not be in charge. She walks into the inner court anyway. She speaks anyway. She waits anyway. And in that waiting, providence is implied, not announced, like a hand guiding without forcing. The hinge of the whole sequence is a threshold. The moment Esther becomes visible where she wasn't allowed to be. That's what public courage is, visibility with consequences. And once she's seen, she can't go back to being a silent queen in a safe room. The palace will remember her step, and so will everyone watching. So the 3 beats are clear. Crisis revealed, risk accepted, strategy unfolding. But the real lesson is quieter. Esther doesn't confuse speed with faithfulness. She doesn't confuse silence with safety. She chooses the hard assignment, then refuses to waste the opening mercy gives her. And tomorrow, at that second banquet, the truth will need a voice. Esther shows us what it looks like to step forward when silence feels safer. Not reckless, not theatrical, just resolved. She gathers her people, crosses the threshold, and then uses patience as power. If you're facing a hard assignment right now, let her story sit with you. Share this with someone who needs courage and subscribe for the next episode.